Hello, hello, everyone. This is Pastor Lorenzo Evans with It Takes a Village podcast, and my lovely co-host Ariana, the communications queen. How you doing?
I am blessed and as always highly favored.
Yes, yes. Well, I'm happy and excited, and I also want to let you know I've been seeing you doing your postings lately, so I see you starting to get out there and make your voice heard. So I'm proud and excited about that as well.
Yeah, it is that season to sound the alarm, to sound out the trumpet, so I'm trying to get on my due diligence. Which I'm happy about today's show because we get to tap into some awareness of the current state of the world. So I'm excited.
Yes, you got kind of an echo when you talk.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a little bit, but yeah, we because we have to speak. We have to say what we see and see what we say. So we can have some fun with that. And the we do have a special guest, Bishop Devin Miller, and like I was telling you previously, his wisdom and knowledge and in-depth knowledge of the political landscape and society and such, and the historical pains and problems that we have had as a culture is very deep and relevant. So that's why I'm excited to have him on today, because he definitely going to shed some light. Now, like I say, when he speak, it may not be popular with everybody, but it will be beneficial for everybody.
I received that.
So I'm excited about that. So we're gonna bring him on 1 minute here. Welcome, Bishop. How you doing there, sir?
Grace and peace to everyone. How are you?
Doing good, doing good, doing good. This is
Good.
my daughter Ariana, and this is Bishop Devin Miller. He's been on the show with Regina, the Juice Radio talk shows. He's been on those several times doing our church news and speaks very elegantly. So that's why during the last one, I was like, hey, you know what? Since we're talking about things that he's well versed in, why not just have him as a guest? So that's why. Because normally before we bring people on, we usually put a advertisement out and let people know. But for this, it was just kind of a last minute thing. So I do apologize for not, doing that. But I'm excited about what we're going to speak about today.
Welcome, Bishop. We're excited to have you. I appreciate you being available to help edify us today.
Well, I don't know about the edification, but okay. Well, we're gonna have fun getting there, I tell you.
Yeah, look, we just gonna speak the truth, and that's what we have to do.
Right.
And in today's world, a lot of people are scared to speak the truth, and we end up having people not saying anything, and then we end up having issues. Then everybody want to talk, but we're from the old school, and it's much easier to put out a fire that you can stomp out than a fire that you have to use and call a fire department.
Exactly.
So we want to put out some of these little small fires so we don't have a forest fire that we're looking at.
Right. Right.
And
Californians? No, funny.
yes, yeah,
Right.
definitely. So we like I say, we just starting out. We want to thank the village and everyone. And again, we're going to just having a candid conversation, non-judgmental. What we're speaking is definitely is our opinion, but it's not necessarily the opinion of other people. But we hope that you can listen and hear, because it's very important that we understand what we're up against in today's times.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I encourage you guys. This is a session of learning too. So definitely grab a pen and paper, take some notes. You'll want to do some research of your own and some of the knowledge that's being dropped today.
Right. Most definitely.
So we'll start. I'll start it off. One of the things that I've noticed in today's society is that the people that should speak have got quiet. And the people that are speaking should not be speaking. I said nicely, because we've got to where people have got intimidated to stand up or speak the truth. And in doing that, we now have a person that's running or trying to get in position to run our government, but they want to transform it to what they want it to be.
Right.
And we can't have that, because the government is supposed to be not necessarily there just to regulate the people, but the people are to regulate the government.
Mm-hmm.
and he want to change that to where he's regulating the people and no one regulating him.
Right.
And that's going to infringe upon the rights of everyone. So I'm gonna have you start out, Bishop, because I know you have so much knowledge on that. But we're gonna let you start out, and of course, we all know Project 25 is something that I look at it as an animal that's rearing up its head, and if we don't be quiet and do something about the bark, then we have to deal with the bite.
Right. Well, again, to your audience and to both of you, thank you for the opportunity to talk about this. Because it's important not only to know where we are now, as you said, but also know where this is coming from, because this is not in a vacuum. The Heritage Foundation, the authors and architects of the Project 2025 are former Trump administration appointees. So that in and of itself lets you know the thought process. The second thing, just in general terms, it is based on not bipartisan leadership, but strictly Republican leadership. So again, it lets you know the skew of which they're coming from. If this was something that was going to benefit America, then it would just be a blueprint for America. And what needed to be changed. But this is strategic. The third thing is that this is almost a second phase that has been put out there now, whereas the first phase, they have said that they tried to do it in Trump's first administration, and trying to get power over the federal employees. And so when that didn't work, because you had safeguards in place that basically told him he couldn't do it, that was the litmus test. How much pushback would they get if they did it? And so then they modified it. And what you have now is that they're, looking at not only the 4,000, estimated 4,000 federal employees that every president gets to appoint. They're looking at the 30 to 50,000 employees that are in specific departments that they want to eliminate so that they can have loyalists in those spaces, not qualified people, but loyalists to the president, i.e. Trump. Okay. And all of this has been geared towards the Trump presidency. They're not looking at another Republican. They're not looking at 2028, if it don't work in 2025, we'll get it for the next election. They see this as their only opportunity because of this is an open show, right? So I can say what I want to say. Yeah. Because of the stupidity and lack of education that Donald J. Trump has and his thirst for power. Okay, you got to have the right person in order to do this project. You can't, because everybody else knows it's dumb. So you got to have somebody that says, oh, you mean I have more power? Oh, I get to do this. Oh, I have the military at my, at my beck and call. Oh, shoot, I want that, because all he wants is power. And so, that's why I've said we don't necessarily need to get into the details of Project 2025, because it's only predicated on if Trump wins. And there's enough out there for what he's doing to himself for us not even to look at Project 2025 to say, we don't want this fool in office.
We would say that, but I have heard the echoing of some of my concerned peers, whether they be Black women, Black America, women, period, who are concerned about our counterparts who are like, hey, Trump's real. He's keeping it blunt. I'm voting for him because I know what I get. He's authentic. So there's still a population of who we would assume to be sound-minded people who believe he's a good candidate option.
Yeah, and Ariana, what I would say to those folks is a simple question of why. Because there's no substance to Donald J. Trump.
There's realness there. To them, they feel it's realness, because everyone else has hidden behind smoke screens.
Sure. But I'm saying to those who actually think that there is something there, just ask him why.
Mhm.
Ask him what policies did he pass in his first term. Ask him how did it benefit the middle and lower class people. Ask them, excuse me, what did they receive as a result of him being in office? And the real answer is that Trump was riding on the coattails of Obama.
Mhm.
Everything that Trump was doing, he was doing because Obama already had it in place. And a lot of what he was doing was trying to overturn what Obama did because, let's be clear, Donald J. Trump does not like black people. It's like what Kanye West said about Bush during Katrina when he was on stage at the arts awards or whatever, and he got up and said, George Bush don't like black people. We need another award show to say that about Donald J. Trump. And he showed his hand when he was at the NABJ.
Right.
Because at the National Association of Black Journalists.
Because that was such a display of disrespect that for me, even if I was for you, the fact that you don't have the ability to articulate a conversation without downgrading someone, yes. I can't promote that. And to say the things, I guess the thing about it that they're so crazy, and we've talked about this before, is that he's not trying to be smooth, subtle, or he's just straight out saying it in a disrespectful way. Like, oh, when I never knew now she's black. She become black this, black that. And it's almost like he's saying it like it's such a derogatory thing that, oh, now she's black. Mm-hmm. So what is your real thing? Because that's the emphasis of everything you're saying. Black, she's black. Now she's black. I didn't know she was black. So what's your thing? Why come you can't speak about her ability to do the position, or if you feel she can't, why you're not speaking about that? I don't think she can do it because of. I think she don't qualify because. But see, that's not his agenda, because it doesn't matter about qualifications. Like you said, it's about people being loyal to him. Mm-hmm. And if, as a people, we need to study and look at these people who have had cults and all these different groups, how they have led people. And the things that they followed was the fact that this person is in so much control, they must be right.
Right. And to that point, and to what you're saying, Ariana, is that if you listen to some of the folks that are like, okay, I'm blacks for Trump and all that, it's younger people, and they caught up in the fact that they think that during COVID, Donald personally gave them checks.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, keep in mind some of the things that we're hoping they look at to see, like the policies, the impact that he had on their individual lives. Those aren't things that they naturally see. Right. So we're asking them to be aware of behaviors that they may not be able to identify. Like, who has done anything for me in the last couple of policy changes and reigns they may not be aware of. They may not have understood how much the cap on insulin benefited some of their family members, or they may not have understood some of those things that were positive impacts that Project 2025 is attempting to roll back. Right. So I want to make sure for those in the village who love his realness, love how he can just be blunt and say what he wants because he's a hot boy.
Right.
How do we bring the awareness of some of the Project 2025 goals so they can feel and see how their lives would be different if they do vote for him?
Well, part of the education process is to first start off with what the presidency has already been given through Trump influence. And that is the presidential immunity. Mm-hmm. Okay, we got to start with what's going on now. Okay, let's look at the fact that he is proud of the fact that he was the one that rolled back Roe v. Wade, which took away the rights of women. to choose of their reproductive rights.
Mhm.
So to Joe Blow on the street that likes his realness and likes his, his bluntness, and he tells it like it is. Well, he just told your mama or your sister that she can't have an abortion if she chooses to. Let's just be real.
Mm-hmm.
If your sister got raped, God forbid, your sister got raped and got pregnant, she got to have that baby. How you feel about that?
On top of that, Project
my baby.
Mm-hmm.
You see, let's make it real. Let's you will no longer be able to vote under Project 2025. You won't be able to vote anymore. And in fact, let me show you a clip where he told some Christians, hey, just vote this one time and you won't have to worry about it again. See, we don't have to make it up.
Right.
All we got to do is use what he's already done and is doing. Let's talk about elections in general. He still thinks he won in 2020. He thinks that whole thing, although there is facts upon facts upon facts upon facts, that was the cleanest election that we ever had in the history of elections. He still thinks he won. Let's talk about January 6th and the insurrection of January 6th. See, we don't have to look at Project 2025. That's why I've been telling people it's good to know it, but you got to understand who is going to be in charge of it.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't vote, and if you don't make your voice heard at the ballot box, then you got to be worried about Project 2025.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because you didn't do your part in democracy.
Right.
And so it's for your generation, Ariana, and younger, I'm gonna say it like that. I'm gonna put all the pressure on you. We just gotta use social media just like Kamala Harris is using it. I mean, I have never in the history of elections, since the information age, seen someone use social media so savvy. And that's what we have to, that's what's changing the tide. Because the minute he says something, it's in social media. Because that's where we get our news from. Ain't nobody watching ABC, NBC, CBS. You're watching YouTube, TikTok, and Facebook. I mean, that's where we get our information. And so we have to use that information in such a way that we don't have to tell them, use common sense.
Right. And that's what I feel is taken out of it, is the common sense part of it, because
Right.
I remember before the first time he got elected, he said, y'all people will allow me to walk down the street and shoot somebody and y'all still vote for me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, and that's almost saying that you are so dumb that whatever I do, it doesn't matter. So it's a thing of such disrespect. And see, the thing about him is he's equal opportunities. He don't just disrespect us. He disrespect everybody. If you don't follow his rule and his belief, you're disrespected. So what they don't understand is he's not just against per se the blacks, even though we're the ones who will feel it the most. If you're white and don't believe in what he's saying, he's gonna put you in that same category.
Yep.
And that's why he wants absolute power, so that he can go and run everything his way. And then he can say who can and who can't. He can say, like saying that, the police should be able to get immunity when they do wrong. That doesn't even make sense. That's like that's that corporate stuff. That's that corporate law where it's saying like the Wild Wild West. Like, since I wear a badge, it's okay, not because it's right or wrong, but because I wear the badge. And then that put everybody in danger, because now you have a society that's running scared. We're scared for our lives, which means that people who may be trying to protect themselves, now we all fighting amongst ourselves because we don't really know what's going on.
Right.
Because they've already made it clear that they don't want gun control, because if you have gun control, but then that kind of bring a semblance of not so major power coming forth. But he want that because with what's going on, he want everybody, especially those who believe in him, to be able to carry a weapon of their choice that they want.
So January 6th would look a little bit different.
Right. And the Proud Boys and all them other groups that are in his corner wouldn't have their guns.
Right.
So it is one of the things, when you look at it from historically, we can look at it from today, but let's go back, a few terms. Donald J. Trump ran because for 8 years, this country was run by a black man. And white males were pissed off. I mean, they were like, wait a minute, this wasn't the plan.
Mm-hmm.
The plan was y'all people come over here. We're going to go get you. We're going to bring you over here, build our country, and then go back home.
Mm-hmm.
That's why it's so easy for Trump to say, go back. Tell Mexicans, go back. Because that's his mentality. This is a white nation. The founding fathers, there were no black people on the founding fathers. They were all white. So that should tell you that you have no place. Okay, so when Barack, and notice how when he says his name, he's quick to say Barack Hussein Obama, because he wants to try to tie it to, Saddam Hussein and all of that stuff that we went through during that time. See, you got to be, this is why I tell you, you got to be listening. So when President Obama, because he's like my forever president. I mean, I'm going to say Madam President when Kamala get there, but Obama's my forever president. When President Obama got into office, poor white males, rich white males, all the white males were like, what are we going to do? How do we know? Mitch McConnell said on the Senate floor, we are going to make sure that this is a one-term president. You got to remind people of how long this has been. It ain't just been in the Biden-Harris campaign. This goes all the way back to 2008. Mm-hmm. This has been in the works since then. The Heritage Foundation is not that old. Mm-mm. They have been thinking about this ever since he got in, because they were like, okay, we'll give him a one term, and they saw how united the United States became, and then he won re-election, and they're like, oh, wait a minute, hold on. That's why Trump doesn't want limits on the presidential deal. See, it all connects, but we have to make the connection for people to see it.
Yes, we do. And I know one thing that I hear a lot of is like identifying how it affects the Black population, like our group. And then that's when some people will go on that. Does he like Black people? Does he not? I stand in the mindset that he is about himself and elevating himself. So I don't necessarily know, I would say that he's prejudiced or racist. I think he's a capitalist. And in that, it's pretty much anybody on his team, like you guys were saying. And so one of the things I want to make sure the village understands is in not voting or in voting for Trump, it is in support of this Project 2025. And let me just say, in supporting Trump, the behaviors and personality and mindset that president would be operating in is very much of a narcissist. Yes. And so that would leave us in a state of, when you are in a long-term effects of dealing with a narcissist, you feel inadequate, you're going to feel low self-worth, it's going to be feeling broken and destroyed inside. And some of the components within Project 2025 ensure that the entire country has a large population of people that are left in that state of mindset and finances and restriction.
Yes. And with that, most of them will look like us. Mm-hmm. They will be people of color. You get rid of Head Start, you're affecting Black people. Okay, and people of color and low-income people. You get rid of the board of the Department of Education, you're affecting low-income and challenged people of color, because they are the ones that instill the discrimination deals that happen in education. You get rid of the EPA. You're talking about going back to the days where you got smokestacks that are killing us and climate control that's out of control. All right. Mm-hmm. When you look at all the employees of the Justice, getting rid of the Justice Department, first of all, giving immunity to police. All of that indirectly and directly affects people of color, people that are poor, and people in the lower echelon of our community. Now, to your point of you don't know if he's racist or not, let me give you history. Who was the one that wanted the Central Park 5 kids executed? All black, 5 young men that were black. He wasn't president. He was just a regular citizen. And he took out a full page in the New York Times saying how they should be killed. Okay. And then when they were exonerated, he did not back down. All right. Let's talk about when Obama was president, who created and started the birtherism of was he even supposed to be in this country? And notice that he's doing that again with Kamala Harris. Okay. His tactics don't change. Okay, a narcissist, like you said, a narcissist is going to be a narcissist whether it's morning, noon, or night. Okay, the mere fact that everyone that is on his indictment list are black women. Okay, if nothing else, black women should be totally empowered right now. I mean, black men should be supporting, yes, but it is not our time. Let's just be real. It is the time of the woman. Okay. And look, go ahead.
They seem to be very sound-minded. Like my population of women in my age group. The younger women and some of my brothers are the ones who seem to provide some of those excuse examples I'm sharing. Like, I don't know if he's really a racist. He's very blunt, you know. So I love that you are bringing these receipts of his mindset to the forefront of us, because we have allowed, like you guys mentioned, a couple things, Village. I've heard today, we are relying on us to operate in common sense. And not to be funny, but common sense ain't common. We know that. And with the new state of the world, the fake news is what we thrive on with social media. So everything that we are absorbing and meditating on, whether it's consciously or subconsciously, 90% of it is fake and deadly to us because we're taking it in as if it's truth and we're not able to decipher. And so this is why it's very important. I want to make sure you guys are picking up on some of these behaviors, some of the history, and some of the experiences we have had with Trump. And where that would lead us. Go ahead.
Look at how he treated COVID. The majority of people that were affected by COVID was us. I mean, everybody had an effect. And please understand, I'm not saying us and them. I'm just saying, because I'm part of us, that's all I'm going to be talking about. Okay. But he did not care. He had no empathy for what was going on in the nation.
How about the guidance given was deadly? Like, drink bleach and do this,
and you'll be fine. And he's looking over to the experts and saying, "Yeah, doesn't that sound like a good idea?"
Yeah, it's scary when people create their own truth and they believe it as truth. And these are our leaders,
right?
And women out there, I know some of y'all have been led and misled by some men. So I need you guys to be sharing testimonies of how the country cannot afford this. Miss America cannot afford to go through this.
Yeah, I mean, and if we just had more people, if they would read and if they would pay attention and what they need to realize, because people follow news and social media, but they won't follow the Bible.
Well,
they'll listen to what social media say is right, but when the Bible say what's right and wrong, we're gonna dismiss that, and we're gonna, because even Trump, he was trying to speak against the Bible to say that, well, I know the Bible, I read the Bible, and they said, well, what's your favorite scripture? Well, I don't want to get into that. Well, why not? Because now we're putting you on a spot where you have to prove what you've said, and you can't. So therefore, you want to include, oh, I know the Bible, I've read the Bible. Well, you read a bunch of novels, but have any of it affected you? Is it in you? So we have to get back to really making people defend what they believe in. And as a group of people, what you realize that whenever you push back a group of people. Once those people are put in position where you want them, your next thing is to push another group back.
Right.
Because the more you push back, now your power is building.
Right.
And so what they don't understand is the ones they're pushing back first is going to be the barrier to hold the other ones that they can't push back.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
we have to speak on it. We have to say this is not right. And it's a lot of people that they're so scared of. Well, if I say this, these people might not like me. Or if I say this, I may not get this job. All that doesn't matter, because once he get in charge, a lot of that stuff is not going to be in your control anyway.
Right.
Whatever job he's seen, because like you said, he's taken away the qualifications of a job.
Mm-hmm.
And so now you gonna have to wait to see if I can get appointed for that job. That's not governmental. That's not democracy.
Right. Right.
And
that's on the federal level. That's what we have to keep in mind too. This is on the federal level, and sometimes in our communities and in our culture, we get caught up in the big ticket, but we don't understand it's a trickle down deal.
it's always been like that.
And so it's not just who's going to be president and vice president. It's who's going to be your congressman and your senator. Who's going to on the federal level? Who's going to be your governor on the state level? Who's going to be your state senator and state congressman? Who's going to be your mayor? Who's going to be on your city council? Who's going to be on your school board? These are things that the lower part is what affects us. But when you have something like Project 2025 that in its large part affects the lower parts, that's what you have to be concerned about, because there is division of government.
Mm-hmm.
The federal can't come into Texas, where I'm at, and say, y'all do this. We see that right now on the border, where Biden and Abbott are at each other, where Biden had to sue Abbott. Abbott's suing Biden because they both think they're equal. And it's like, dude, you are not the president. You are a governor. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
There are certain things you just can't do.
But with Project 2025, that would be changing something, because
That's what I'm saying.
it's breaking it down to where states are being empowered a whole lot more.
Yes.
Which, for my people, my village, that means instead of us being a United States, we will be divided times 50.
Yes. And that's the fear. But I want your village to know that fear can be squashed if you vote him not in. I mean, it all goes away.
Right.
And I think sometimes we're putting too much emphasis now because it's so detrimental, but we're not looking at the bigger picture, saying it's only detrimental if Trump wins.
And that's the message. And I don't think people understand that. And also, we have to get to the point, like you were saying, we understand that when it comes to political offices, it's not just the presidency. It's not just the one. You don't just vote every 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
These little smaller ones, because they are the ones that allow him to do this, that, and the other. So that's why they want to get more people here and more people there, because he's building up his army. But see, he's doing it in such a low-key way. And what he's trying to do is distance himself away from them. So we'll be looking so much at him, we don't see them slipping right on in.
Exactly. And let me add to that. This is why in your generation too, on 2 points. One, you see an uptick in voter registration of younger voters because they know what's at stake. But on the other side of that, the Republican machinery in the states are checking voter registration rolls. And if you did not vote in the last cycle, your name will be purged from that registration thing. And in Project 2025, they want to get rid of same-day registration. See, it's this. It ain't just, let's look to the future. The future is now. If you're not registered to vote, if you vote, you'll get to the polls and they say, wait a minute, your name isn't even on the thing. They're like, oh, well, I got my license and registration. We don't take that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
You register now, but you can't vote till the next cycle. And see,
a president with a felony who cannot vote is able to run to become president to restrict us of our voting rights, who are able-bodied, citizens.
He can't even vote for himself in Florida.
And I've always, since the beginning of time, as I was aware of rules and laws, regulations, I've always thought that it doesn't make sense that a person who is charged for a penalty or whatever, now you're saying they don't have a vote, because when these things happen, it affects them as well.
Mm-hmm.
So we've lived with that for years, but now we're saying that, and I just don't understand why the people can't get this. If they can just blot out everything else, you're telling me that if I'm a felon, I cannot vote. But as a felon, I can run the country. So since I'm a felon, I can't get any job I want, because now there's only certain jobs I can get. But okay, but I run for president then.
Right.
It doesn't make sense, because you're saying that, and that puts him above the law.
Right.
And when you start that, well, then you're diminishing the law, which is breaking down the government and democracy, and then you end up with a different type of government.
Yeah.
But they're sitting here and they looking like that's okay.
And then for him to insult your intelligence by saying, this is why the blacks are so, I'm so in tune with them, because I got felons and they got felons, and, we all know each other. I got gold shoes. I tried to sell them some gold-plated shoes because they like flashy things. And we're sitting there going, yeah, that's great. Come on, people. Did you jump on the apple cart, or did the apple cart roll over you? I don't know which one. But it's like he's always doing things to berate, diminish, degrade people of color, or those white folks that don't agree with him.
Mm-hmm.
But that's when you talk silly. They're that, But when it's us, oh, you're not intelligent. You're this. You can't do. Would you want a felon to come up in your face and tell you what you cannot do? See, I like to keep it simple. I just,
Right, and it's simplistic, and I think that's why it amazes me that people are not catching it, or people are saying, "Oh, that's okay," because you're saying, even in essence, that I'll vote for somebody who's a felon. They can do this, and they have all this power. But if I get a felony, now I can't even vote. But I want to see you in office. I want you to have your power, but that same power is diminishing the power I have as a person.
Exactly.
And I tell people, I want them to understand what we're saying. This is not a black or white issue. Mm-mm. This is a government issue. This is a world issue. This is not something that you say, oh, it's just going to affect this group. No, this is going to affect the whole world and everything we stand for. And I remember this, and I was thinking about this too. I think it was about maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago when they said that plane. I think it was a China bomber or something to try to come over to American space, and it was turned around by I think they said Russian American ships met him. Planes met him and turned him around. Okay. And they said, "Oh, this never happened in history." That's because now they're looking at us saying, "You know what? They weak.
Right.
We see them now. They're no longer a threat. Let's see what we can do." Because they'd have never done that 4 years ago. They'd have never done that 10 years ago.
Yeah. But and now, even with the ships coming into neutral waters now and pressing the line.
Right. Yeah. That people have to realize, and I'll say this too, and I'm just a personal person. I believe this personally. I think 911 was the setup. And they said, look what we've done before when they were strong. Mm-hmm. What more can they do now that we seem to have been weakened because we're fighting amongst ourselves so much? And the Bible itself says, where there's division, I have fault. Mm-hmm. So with all this division, that's when it's time for them. Let's creep in and let's slowly infiltrate them. While they're fighting, trying to keep them from the border, they just getting on a plane and flying right over.
Right.
So they doing it's this old trick. And if
hide the hand, throw the rock and hide the hand.
Right. If we don't pay attention, we're gonna be in such a bad state that we're gonna wish now that we did have somebody like Barack in office, or somebody like Hillary, or anybody who is better than what we have, because I'd rather have a person who may not necessarily agree with everything that they say, but at the same time, they want to make sure that it's a benefit for the country.
Right. For all.
It's not just about me. And Trump, and we have to realize that he's got so much power and money That's why he's able to do all the things he's doing. If he did not have money, we would not even hear nothing about him. He'd have never made it in. But he had enough money to get the best airtime, to pay the people to say this. And we're such a person, such a society that social media, we believe everything.
Right.
But I remember, the Bible says, out of the mouth of babes, the wisdom would be spoken. I remember when he went to try to shake that little young girl, the black, she was like, dude, I don't know you.
Right.
She knew that he was not right. And we're not speaking so much against him, the person. We're speaking against his policy and procedure and the way he does things, the way he implements his
mindset. It is not Christ-like minded, and not that you have to be a Christian, but if you are claiming to be that, you need to be, and to lead a whole nation, you need to be operating a Christ-minded mindset. And his isn't. He's dividing. He's a dictator. And one of the things I hear, Village, that the warning today is to listen, pay attention. But be careful, because we can be looking at the wrong things. He loves to be seen. He is a wolf in sheep's clothing. So he will distract us while he has, like I was about to say Papa Zoe, like Pastor Lorenzo said, while he has the rest of the army setting up, the troops are out there infiltrating. Like, we have to be conscious of what we're focusing on. Like, we're watching his posts, we're watching his comments, his bluntness. We love the jokes, we love the humor, or we just love the drama, because he is picking up some of the best-selling tactics of our reality TV shows and all that. So he's not doing anything that's new that we haven't already been hypnotized to. Right. We have to wake up.
Right. And again, when you find those folks that appreciate appreciate him for all those things, again, it's the questions. We have to ask the right questions of the folks that are naive. What policies is he running on? Well, he wants to stop the border. Do you understand that the border has been at its lowest numbers under Biden? Okay, so I threw that one out. Okay, the economy. Well, I saw more money when Trump was in office. Do you understand that the economy was at its best when Obama left office, and that Trump, when he got in office, created $3 trillion in debt? Do you know that when Trump was in office, that everybody had to come in who was dignitaries and everything had to stay at Trump Towers, and the government paid for it? Did you know that? Did you know that every time he went to Mar-a-Lago and he was on the golf course, that the government had to pay for him to be at his own place, and he was also being, the Secret Service had to be with him, which was our tax dollars? Do you know that he said that he wanted to stop Obama from being on the golf course because he was golfing too much? Do you know that Donald J. Trump spent almost 40%, not almost 50% on the golf course during his 4 years? Do you know? See, this is what we do. Mm-hmm. Everything that you say you like about him, there's a reason behind it that you shouldn't. Oh, he wrote his name was on the check. Do you know that Donald J. Trump made it a point to have his names put on that check? Because typically the Department of Treasury, the Secretary of Treasury, is the one that signs government checks. But he said, I want my name on those checks. And do you know that it wasn't him that wrote the checks? The money came from Congress. So if you want to thank somebody, thank Nancy Pelosi. You see, these are the facts, and our, your generation, my generation, any generation wants to deal with facts. Okay. So there is nothing that, and then it's like what we said earlier, look at who he hangs with. He honors Putin. He honors Xi from China. He honors Kim Jong-un, whatever that boy name over there in North Korea.
Yeah. Well,
the Bible says you will know them by the fruit they bear.
Mm-hmm. He even said once, he made a statement, said that, I've done more for the world than Christ. And I'm like, really? He created the world.
And he done more for black people than Abraham Lincoln.
Right. So, you know, he throw these things out. And the one thing we do, like you say, we laugh about it, but we really need to look at what we laugh at, because that laughter is making, you know, while we laugh and they just easing right on by,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and some things it's funny till it's not.
Right. Right.
You know, and him wanting to regulate the job force and everything, that's so that eventually he can start taking control over them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we have Trump Towers everywhere. It might be your business, but it's gonna be his building with his name. It may be your company, but he's gonna be regulating. See, when you have a person who wants absolute power,
Right.
with absolute power comes great responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to have a moral compass. Well, only person that can do that is Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And we have seen time and time again that he doesn't care. He will sit right in your house and tell you that you're stupid, right in your house, and tell you that you're nobody. But I still want your vote.
Right.
I mean, he'll tell people that, you know, I don't really want to care what you say. I don't care how you feel about that. I just want your vote. Well, then, if you don't care what I think, well, then why do you want my vote?
Right.
So here's another a thought that I hear. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I hear, I love how he works the system. Like, it's the most amazing. He knows how to pimp the system. For those that are out there looking at him as a role model.
Yeah, well, let's talk about how he pimped the system.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're a 34-time convicted felon. How is that pimping the system? You degraded a woman that you claim you didn't know, and you got to pay $437 million to this woman. How is that pimping the system? See, I thought that pimping the system was you get away with stuff. Not you cover it up until somebody finally finds it. How is it that all of your businesses went bankrupt? How is that pimping the system? How is it pimping the system that you never paid your full taxes and you wrote it off on the books, and you sold your buildings, you bought them low and you sold them 3 times high, and then you changed the difference? How is that pimping the system? See, because where I come from, when you pimp something, you getting over, yeah, but they never find you.
Right.
If I'm going to be a good pimp, I'm going to retire a good pimp, and I'm going to take my money with me. If I'm a pimp, Superfly was a pimp, and he did it right. Okay.
Yeah.
But it looked good while he did it. Didn't have orange hair. No, Slim.
You never saw the inside of his head. You never saw the inside of it.
Right.
And he had a song made after him. But anyway, you know.
Right.
One of the things in that example, you said, sorry, go ahead, Bishop.
I said, Trump ain't got no song. You ain't got no song with no Trump. Come on now. You can't pimp. You know, a pimp know a pimp. Come on now. Game, peep game.
Right.
So to my village out there that think that he's a great role model of sorts, look at all the things that he can do because of the privilege, the financing, the sources, whether it be attorneys and people in his corner who are just as grimy, snaky. He can do those things that you can't do, that we don't have the grace, privilege, or favor to walk in those realms. For example, being a felon and can't vote, but can run for president. So
open up a university and don't have no classes. We can't do that.
Right.
We got Trump. We have a product on the market, and it goes belly up. If we did that, we'd be in bankruptcy court.
Mm-hmm.
But he just write it off.
Well, how about the recent? Like, he can anything that he does, and he claims it to be under presidential. I guess we'll call it immunity, mindset, operation, behavior. He cannot even be in the presidential role, but say he was acting as, and be granted favor and grace over everything that he chooses to do.
Well, that's why it was so hard. That's why it was so important that he appoint the 3 Supreme Court justices that he did. one, to get rid of Roe v. Wade, and two, if the election ever gets to a point, it goes to the Supreme Court, he thinks he's already bought them.
Right.
Because when they were questioned by Kamala Harris, then Senator Harris, all of them presidents said that they would be, all those justices said they would be impartial, and none of them have been. The only one that's starting to stand up is Barnett. Why? Because she's a woman and she realizes that Trump will be detrimental to her life.
Right.
Yeah.
And at this point, we can't wait till we're dying.
Right.
Right.
And we can't wait for the outcome of the election. We can't say, well, I'm not going to vote because, I just think it's all corrupt, because I get that on my podcast. Mm-hmm. Oh, it's all corrupt. We shouldn't vote for anybody. I said a non-vote is a vote.
People don't understand that, though, and that's the ideology that they want you to have. Don't vote. Your vote don't count, and all that. And so what they have, you have 100 people that say, well, you know what? It doesn't matter. I'm not going to vote. Well, then that's 100 points towards him.
Right.
Because and people have to understand this, whether they believe it or not, no matter what you say, how you say it, no matter how you present it, either you're for or you're against. There is no middle area. Either you're with me or you're against me. Mm-hmm. And it's just that simple. And people need to understand that low key, when you say I'm not voting, that means that you are with him.
Right.
Because you're not speaking against him. So we have to take a stand while we can. Because if not, we'll find ourselves in a position where now we can't stand until he tells us to stand.
Boy, that won't be no standing, y'all. We'll be in a little box. On the project2025.org, which is targeted to the conservative audience, the way that I want to just read this little phrase. It says, it is not enough for conservatives to win elections. If we are going to rescue the country from the grip of the radical left, we need both a governing agenda and the right people in place, ready to carry out this agenda on day one of the next conservative administration.
Right.
So we won't have to vote again. Things are in here. Like there will be no limit on the terms he can serve. Mm-hmm. If he finds that voting is going a certain way, he will have the ability to prosecute federally anyone that is working within the what's the name of the group that manages or oversees all the voting elections? The elections?
Yeah, the election commission.
The election commission. That means like I see my votes in Georgia aren't trending to me winning. So right now I'm going to go and pursue Pastor Evans because he's over the Georgia commissions. Elections commissions, and I'm about to go take him to put federal charges on his life.
Yep.
Because I'm about to lose.
Yeah. And let's go
extreme, guys.
He ain't even got to do that. He can order SEAL Team 6 to kill his opponents
without any problem.
Without any problems, asking anybody whatever he feel he can do.
And here's the issue, and I really hope people listen to this. If you go back before Trump was ever in office, we had racism and division, and we already had those problems, but we had a sense of a little more where we can kind of have some kind of systematic, say, hey, if they do something wrong, we can't speak about it. We can do this, that. And they was kind of getting to where they realized that, okay, we can't just do anything and everything. Right. Now, once he got in office, you start seeing them be more blatant with it. Like, hey, wait a minute, our leader's doing that. Mm-hmm. We're going to be okay. Mm-hmm. If we do it the right way and he's pleased, he's going to give us a pardon anyway. Right. If we do it the right way and he's pleased, we're going to be okay. So what they have to understand is that when they allow him to be in power, we allow them to be in power. And just when you seen the way that police officer killed that lady,
yes,
that was an execution publicly done, because and even at the end of it, people like, oh, my camera wasn't on. You knew your camera wasn't on because you know what you went to do.
Right.
And if it was such an issue, you could have walked over to that stove yourself and cut that off.
Mm-hmm.
But you wanted her to go in a place to where you can say, hey, I'm in danger. Come on. You done. And if that don't wake people up, because we're going to see more of that, and it's not only going to be with cops. They go, well, I'm standing my ground. There was no ground for you to stand on for that. That was blatant murder. I don't care how you look at it.
Right.
All these
And
Karens and damsels in distress, you're gonna be seeing men in distress all the time.
right. But even with the Massey situation, Sandra Massey,
Sandra, yeah.
that was premeditated.
Mm-hmm.
There were the investigation is starting to show that that officer who killed her, Miss Massey, had a run-in with his wife or his girlfriend at the hospital. Whatever went down there, she didn't like. She told her husband was the one, the cop, that was making the disturbance because he was the first one on the scene. He was the first one. That call didn't come in. He was waiting for the call because he knew it was going to come. And so it's not just a question of the officer that killed the woman, but it's also a question of his partner. Where was his partner when he was going around the house and beating on the door, knowing that she had a medical and mental issue? That was an execution, like you said, but it was premeditated.
Mm-hmm. And if
was the investigator, he was the son or the nephew of the chief of police at that time. That's why they didn't do what procedure says, protocol says, which was his firearm should have been taken away. He should have been put in the car and taken to downtown, whatever downtown is. They said, "No, just hang around." No, you don't do that with a death by cop. You don't do that.
Right.
So it's like, that's why you have to be more informed than what you see. That's why I said, look, I get general news from the big guys, then I go to YouTube and get the real story.
Yeah. And I want people to understand what you're saying so they don't get it confused. Death by cop is not the same thing as suicide by cop. There's two different things.
Right. Yes.
Two different situations, because that's when people do whatever they can to provoke it so that will be the outcome.
Right.
It's what the same situation. So I don't want people to get that confused.
You are correct. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And the video, again, you're not seeing all the video on mainstream media, but you go to YouTube and TikTok, they're already showing you that she didn't have that water in her hand. She had already taken her hands off the water. Her hands were up. And she was on the floor. Yes.
So there was no need.
And you had to move to get a shot.
Right. You had to position yourself. So there's no way in the world that you can look at that and say it was justified. And for the people who are saying that, they need to be careful about what they're saying, because if they starting that now, you can find yourself or somebody on the wrong side of speaking, and then you can say, "Oh, well, but this is justified." No, it's not. There's no way you can justify that, regardless of what your political belief is, your religious belief, or whatever. We have to start calling wrong right, and we have to start calling right and wrong, and we have to start calling out those people who are in power, who feel like they are above the law, and that starts way at the top.
Yes. And we also have to be mindful, and this is something real for your generation, Ariane, is that, in this time, we're in less than 100 days of the election. I said this before, and I say it on every one of my shows. Women in general, Black women in particular, keep your head on a swivel, because white men are going to be coming. Because they see the signs. They see Kamala is coming up. She sees the galvanization that she's doing, and it's going to hit our neighborhoods. Mm-hmm. Those MAGA closet Klan folk coming out and saying, if you got a Kamala shirt on, if you got anything that supports Kamala, be ready. Mm-hmm. Be ready. If you're going to volunteer for her, and I'm not saying this to scare people. Please understand. I've been at this too long to scare people. I ain't one of them scare preachers. You're going to hell. You're going to hell if you don't drink. I ain't that preacher. My daddy tried to be one, and my grandfather really was one. But anyway, there was a young man. I was on my show last night, and there was my wife showed me a video of a young man went into Virginia City, Nevada, or something like that. Purely a white little town, okay? and he's got his little clipboard, and he's all happy, and he's going in there and asking old white men, and he was black, asking old white men, "Are you registered to vote?" And he was young, and he had no backup. Okay, so when they saw him, one of the white men said, "No, he's like, yeah, we're registered to vote," or he said something. He said, "But we got a hanging tree in the back for you niggas." This is 2024, August of 2024, and the young man got upset, and rightfully so. But his upsetness should have got him to leave out of there and go on and be upset in his own house. He tried to argue with them. And see, the young generation wants to be so right that they just going to argue against folk. Look, some things you just don't argue.
Right, because you can be right, but you can be dead right.
Thank you. Right. And he's like, "I don't understand. That's racist. And I don't understand why you're letting them say that to me. And you know that's racist." And everybody around him was white. And the white woman that came out said, "Baby, it's going to be okay," trying to patronize him. "Don't touch me. No, that's not right." That's all on tape. He's like, "I got it on tape, and I'm gonna. What you gonna do? You're a volunteer. You're by yourself. You volunteered to go do this. So what's your recourse?" And
you're in their neighborhood.
It was a car show because they had the hoods up and stuff, and so it was a car show. I said, and you saw it as an opportunity. They saw it as a time to get your butt, man. Come on.
Right.
You know, so we got to be careful in our zeal and our enthusiasm. Let us not be naive. And let us be mindful of where we go, and don't go by yourself. I've been telling folks, go in twos. Black men, black women, go in twos. If you're out at night, parking. I mean, we got to do those things that may seem silly. Oh, we living in 2024. No, we're living in 2024.
No, we're dying in 2024.
Yes. You know, we were already dealing with abductions. Right. Black women being abducted. What do you think is going to happen now between August and the end of October?
Right. And we have to keep our cameras and stuff handy. And it's sad, but the recording is not so we get justice, but it's so we have a record of what really happened.
Exactly. Because
it doesn't prove it. So, but yeah, we just, like I said, I know that we normally have conversations for the village, but we just wanted to take this time out because I wouldn't feel like it's right to have a show called It Takes a Village podcast and not bring forth this information. We can't just always have stuff that's, entertaining. We have to educate, we have to enlighten, we have to uplift. So that's the reason for this particular show, because I just felt like, I can't not say anything because I'm very concerned about my village, more so the younger ones who don't know and the older ones who can't do a lot to protect themselves.
Right.
So we have to make a statement, and we have to make our voices heard. So it's no way I could just sit by and not say anything. So, and I do appreciate you as well, Bishop, for the short notice and accepting the invite, because your information is something that's very, very beneficial, and I respect your opinion greatly. That's why I brought you on here.
Appreciate you, sir. And my wife will tell you, I love a good debate. So, I don't mind as long as I bring truth. It's not about personality or things like that. Because someone asked me before, "You hate Trump?" I said, "Man, I don't have time to hate. The Bible says love everybody, but the Bible didn't say nothing about liking them." I said, "I just don't like Trump."
Right.
And I think he's bad for the country. And that's fine. Right. The Bible says we are to pray for our leaders, but if we don't know what our leaders stand for, then how do we know what to pray for?
Right.
Honor our leaders. What are we honoring? I mean, so we're staying in the word. I hope, the village understand. We're staying in the word because, I have people say, "Well, you're a pastor. You're just supposed to preach the gospel." Well, I am preaching the gospel. It's the gospel of 2024, not 1864. So understand. And if we just can get to an understanding that the presidential race, as it's been said, is really a question of, do you want to go forward or do you want to go back?
And it's the back you have not been in. Anyone moving out, it's not nothing you're familiar with.
Right. Uncharted waters or waters you can help to chart. You
Exactly.
know, you can put it
We're
that way.
going back to that time where you guys said, I don't know if I could live and be doing that and saying yes, sir, and no, sir. That's the time it's taken back. If you have not, I hope, Papa Zoe, can drop in the link, some of the resources for them to look through some of the bullet points of Project 2025 so they can
Let me see if
get
I
some meat.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because they need to know. Like I said, we're not. I'm not going to sit by and not say anything, because I know as a pastor that I have to speak the truth, and you cannot be a light and just simply say I'm gonna shine my light, but I'm not, and not make sure that you shine it directly on the darkness.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
And understand that darkness is simply the absence of light.
mm-hmm.
If we understand that, then we understand why we do what we do, because darkness is just the absence of light. It's not darkness' fault that it's dark.
Exactly.
It don't have nothing else to do but be dark.
Right.
They don't know no better.
Yeah, but you don't know differentiation until you shine light. There's like, oh, that's dark, and I always tell people I don't have a backdrop because I keep my boys behind me. But the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said it to Malcolm when he was about to go national. He said, he gave him the analogy of a dirty glass of water and a clean glass of water. He said, Malcolm, this is the world. He took an ink drop, put it in water. He said, this is the world, full of corruption, full of hate, full of, all this kind of stuff. And he said, if this is all that the world has to drink and they're thirsty, that's all they'll drink. Then he took another glass of just pure water. He said, but if you put alongside them a clean glass of water, they'll make the choice. Mm-hmm. He's like, I just want you to go out and give the folks some good water.
Yes.
That's all we're supposed to do. It's still your choice.
And they can always have a choice. We just have to give them the tools and education to make the right choice.
There
but
it
is this. I'm in my 60s, and I remember going when I was younger and we was walking up through the woods once, and there was a sign, and it said, if you're black and can read this sign, run. And then under that, it said, if you're black and can't read this sign, run.
Right.
So I remember those days where after a certain time of night, we didn't go to certain parts of the town we lived in. Mm-hmm. It was just that simple. So I remember being under that and thinking that because of the color of my skin, which I had nothing to do with, God blessed me with this. Mm-hmm. I can't go certain places. I can't strive to be certain things and all of that. So to be in a time now where I see just my general basic rights as a person could be held up or suspended, that bothers me.
Sure.
How about your kingdom authority? Like the mindset of feeling like we are supposed to be low. Like that's not who we are. Right. And we can't allow someone to create an agenda and bring it forth as if that's our reality. No.
Right. And if as pastors, people think that we are stepping outside the guidelines, well, then they need to go and study the word to understand that the Bible does not tell us not to be involved in political issues. It tells us to be astute to the word and make sure that whatever we're involved in, that God is the base foundation of what we're saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, and to that point as well, Pastor, is that we should not be looking to government to be our savior. Mm-hmm. And so we try to hold them to godly principles that they may not necessarily ascribe to as a person, or do they even allow that to guide how they govern? So we have to look at for what they say and how they act. And we break it down to saying, I'd rather see a sermon than hear a sermon any day. You can tell me all you want, but if I don't see it, then it's no good. And so, again, we're bringing biblical principles not to the political arena, but to shape the political arena so that I'm not looking for Trump or Kamala Harris to be my God. I'm not looking at them to be my savior. I'm already saved and I know who my God is. But there is a way in which you should govern that should be balanced and fair to the masses of the people. And if that's not happening, then that's what I vote on. I don't vote, are you a Christian? Where do you stand on this? Okay, we may not agree on everything, but do we agree on enough that the least, the left out, and the lonely are taken care of? That we can take care of homelessness, even though I personally think that homelessness and social issues should be the church's responsibility, not government. But that's a whole nother show. But we got to understand our separation, but we also have to understand our responsibility.
Definitely.
And clearly, if a man cannot stand in front of a church and hold a Bible right side up, I think that's not the person that should be in office.
Definitely.
If that person can say, "Oh, I think the old," which part are you more Old Testament thought or New Testament? Oh, well, I think both of them are great. What's your favorite passage? Oh, well, I don't want to pick out any particular one. I think they're all great. And then somebody said, how do you pray? And you're like, well, I'm really popular with the evangelicals. That's his latest one. I'm really popular with the evangelicals. That wasn't the question. The question was, do you pray?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, the evangelicals love me. They love me. They think I'm great. Okay. But then you got in front of the Christians and said, just vote for me. All you got to do is vote for me, and you'll never have to vote again.
Because none of us will ever vote again. He's going to take the right from us, y'all.
We have to understand that what he does is he take a very little bit of something that makes sense and sprinkle a lot of nonsense on it. But we just capture just a little bit that makes sense.
Yes.
And that's what he's hoping for. I'm with the evangelicals. Oh, well, what he's saying is I'm favored with the blacks.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he's saying.
Right.
He's just the same pony show that he's bringing in, the same dramatic drama that is in the black community that is not feeding us anyway. And he is embodying it and giving it right back to us.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So
how you gonna go into a restaurant and hug a black person and then she was a plant? I mean, come on. We can dissect his stuff.
Right, and you can look and tell.
Right. It's funny to me. It cracks me up because when I see all these videos and blacks for Trump and all that kind of stuff, I'm like, you do realize that he's making a mockery of you.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the thing is that most of them don't.
Most of them don't.
Because
I think that's under Ariana's generation. That's a generation below hers. That's not yours.
Right.
There's a lot of us still walking around blind because we've allowed the medias to create our reality. And so those of us who don't even realize how blind we are, this video is to bring light to it, to wake us up, to bring the awareness, because the only way to prevent our children's Head Start funding and the education department from being stripped away is to not vote Trump in. The only way to make sure that the gun laws don't get stripped away and any and everybody with mental or any type of limitation can purchase freely, you have to make sure Trump does not get elected. There is a whole, for those of you that don't know, Project 2025 is well over 900 pages long and is very detailed with things addressing our children's education, preventing doctors from getting medical supplies to even attempt to perform abortions or even getting pills. There are also things in place where it will allow you to be prosecuted and your medical records and everything monitored to make sure you're pregnant and you take the baby to term. So there's a privatization of a lot of the government programs like Medicaid. So things are going to be stripped from us in every area of our life. Overtime being able to be expected with no overtime pay. It's affecting all of us, y'all. And so the only way to be proactive and to be on the forefront of it is to make sure that we do not allow Trump to win this presidential election.
That's right.
Yeah, we have to do our part. And like I said, as a pastor, I can't not speak and I can't be concerned about what people think or whatever. And I've never been. So it's the same as this. Because normally, like I said, I'm not much on I used to not be too much of a political, speaker, and I never said much. But as I'm getting more mature in more different areas or seasons of my life, I'm getting more vocal because it behooves me not to alert my younger generation as to what they're dealing with and how to deal with it.
Right.
So
Most
I
definitely.
have to do that. So again, we went over a little bit, but you have a lot of information. Again, Bishop, like I say, I appreciate your wisdom and your ability to articulate it where it makes sense.
Appreciate
And
you.
passionately. Like we need the fire. We need, because it's go time.
Yeah, it's go time. Yeah, you're right. It's go time. And I thank both of you for, having the platform to be, open, honest, and transparent, because we need this within our community. All communities, of course, but especially ours, because the impact either way. I mean, I think it's a balance, but it's a balance positive or balance negative. If Trump gets in, the impact is going to be negative. But if Kamala Harris gets in, the impact is going to be positive. And it just depends on which side of history do you want to live on.
Right.
Do you want to live on the fact that you destroyed democracy or that you enhanced it? That's it. All this other stuff is just facts that you need to make a righteous decision. But the decision is really clear. Do you want to make history or do you want to destroy history? We did it before when we elected Barack Obama. So, and look at what the country did as a result of it.
Yeah.
Study his record for 8 years. Now, just imagine, if you have a black woman in there for 8 years. What can I said, what can Congress do to a woman that they wouldn't feel bad about it? You know what I mean? Like, oh, we can't do that. We could do that to a man, but we can't say that to a woman. There's multiple levels that we can't say that. So, if we got to guilt our way to prosperity, then I'm all for it. So get her in there and let's see. We've never been here before. We've never been here before. And sometimes it's like you just want to be on the side of history.
Yeah.
Just
and on the side of right, And
when Obama got elected, I was like, okay, he went a little fast. I mean, he just was a senator. Now he's running for president. I don't know. But then I thought, we ain't never had a black president. Why you voting for him? Because he's black? He stands for? Not really. I'll figure it out. But it's like, but you voted because he's black. And that's the same statement I'm going to make in November. Why you vote for Kamala Harris? But I have a little more substance. I'm a little more mature than I was back then. But yes, because she's black and because she's a woman. We've never had this country run by a woman. But we have Fortune 500 companies being run by women. We got Fortune 1,000 companies being run by women. We've got, millionaires and billionaires that are women that are making a difference. Why not see if she can do it for the country?
Yeah, and I think so, because it's a woman's nature is to be nurturing, to be encouraging, to uplift, to withstand, to be that one that can dig their heels in.
Yes.
And I think that over history we have seen that a lot of major changes came when a woman was allowed to show, look, this is what I can do.
Yep.
So we're at a point in history where we must.
Yes.
It's not that we should, but we must allow that to happen.
Yep.
And think about what we're doing now. We're saying, look, we've had a black man in, we've had a black woman in, both educated and qualified, not just because they're black. We don't want no token.
Exactly.
Be straight. We want somebody who can do the job.
Right.
Now that's going to start giving the newer generations like, hey, wait a minute, maybe I can be something other than a drug dealer. Maybe I can be something other than a rapper. Maybe thug don't have to be on my resume.
Yeah. So, and if I'm intelligent and if I'm qualified, I could run for school board.
Right.
I could run for city council.
And also, I know people are going to disagree with this statement, but we're saying, look, we also can realize, look, having a felon doesn't stop you from being something special in life.
All the employers out there that are voting for Trump, get right with it.
Right. I guarantee you that's going to be something, even though he using it to his benefit, all things work together for the good. Right. And I do believe there's going to come a point where, because of what he's done, they're going to change the way they look at that and look at people with felons now. Because that's going to be like, wait a minute. So he can run a country, but I can't get a job here?
Right.
That your company based on? You know, let's okay. The lawyers are now studying as to how to present their case to sue for people now who not watch. Watch you gonna see those commercials. Have you ever tried to get a job and you couldn't because of a felon? You watch.
Oh yeah, and it was slowly happening already because it's like if you've paid your dues and you've paid your restitution, why are we still punishing you?
Right.
It's slowly happening. You know, you have those felony friendly jobs and felony friendly apartments and all of that. But now it's like that shouldn't even be a question.
Right.
It should be, am I able to do the job? And do I have the money to pay the rent? Do I, all of that? That should be, and that goes back to what King says, not by the color of my skin, but the content of my character. And so so it's again history. It's history. We're living on the show. We're building on the shoulders and on the backs of folks that died for what we're able to talk about right now. And so it's honoring our ancestors on the fight and the information that we give because they couldn't give it. It's like what you were saying, and that just wasn't. Were you in the South when you were growing up?
I was in West Virginia.
Okay. Well, it was happening in Milwaukee, Wisconsin too. Okay, there was a certain bridge you couldn't cross when the lights came on. It's called Germantown for a reason.
Yes.
Okay, and black folks didn't go over there. But now, you got more black folks in Germantown than you got in other parts of the city. It's evolution. It's evolving. And so this is an opportunity historically for us to do something that has never been done. I said when I'll quit. I said when Geraldine Ferraro ran for vice president with Walter Mondale during the Carter era. I know, Ariana, you wasn't nowhere around.
Yeah.
You was up in these trying to figure out if you was gonna get here. But anyway, I said this is the tide. This is the shift tide. Because no woman and they didn't win, but it was the fact that Mondale had enough sense at that time to pick a woman running mate. And since him, the first person before that was Shirley Chisholm, who ran for president. Okay, never had you even had a woman run for president.
Right.
After her was Jesse Jackson, who ran for president. Never had a black man run for president. Didn't win, but it was setting and dropping the seeds for a Barack Obama and now for a Kamala Harris. Hillary running for president. She wasn't the first woman to run for president. Shirley Chisholm, and nobody really gave her credit that she ran after she had become representative of California, that she ran for president. She was like, why not? She's like, I'm qualified. I got that. I got the credentials. Why not? And she almost won if she didn't make the concession at the convention to not to take her name off the ballot.
Right.
So this is the history that we have to understand of our people and women's rights and all of these things that have happened that has got us to this point. When when Melinda Gates can say, Kamala, I'm gonna write you a check for $70 million. I wish she wrote me a check for $70,000. I'm trying to find Melinda. I'm with her. It's like what we did when we tried to get into the club. I'm with him. Right. Can I get some? I'm with her. So, I mean, it's an exciting time. It's really an exciting time, but we have to be aware more so than ever before.
Definitely. You have any closing comments, Ariana?
I just want to, as we wrap up, share with the village. I know today's episode was about, one of our goals was how do we stop Project 2025? And that is to make sure we do not allow Trump to win this election for another term. I just want to make sure that we are prepared mentally, physically, and emotionally, all of the Lees, for what happens after the election. Because this agenda, like was said, the Heritage Foundation didn't just sprout up last week. This has been an agenda and a project in line for some time now. Yes. So it is not just going to disappear because Kamala wins, nor will it disappear if Trump wins. Right. So after this, we still have to be aware, we have to be diligent, and we have to watch what is happening on the levels under presidency to make sure these things do not still take place. Because now we don't have the big face of it in front of us, even if Trump doesn't win. So I just want to remind us, this is the beginning of our battlefield, I guess.
Most definitely.
Yes, definitely. And I want to thank both of you for your comments, because, we like I say, the whole village concept is bringing a village back together and bringing the village concept back, bringing back where we help one another, where we realize that we're better together as a unit, united. And that's what's at stake. And that's what we have to realize now. The fact that we say we are the United States, we have someone who want to change that. And we're no longer, it will be the states, but we won't be united. And that's what's at stake. We have to realize that this is something that goes beyond color, race, sex, creed. This is something that would affect the whole country as a whole. And it would change as we know it. So like you say, what part of history do you want to be on? And I say for me, it was his story when it was Barack. It'd be her story when it's Kamala.
Right.
And that will make our story.
Right.
And that's what we need.
Yep.
Yes. So, all right, then. Well, we get ready to sign off here. Again, I hope the village, hope you learned something, even if it was not what you was expecting or was not the norm, but it was something that is needed. And we must put out in society so that they would know what's going on. We must let our voices be heard while we have a voice.
Yes, sir.
And that's what's at stake, our voice. And as long as I have breath in my body and I'm called by God and justified by God, I will speak the things that's given to me to speak the way he wants me to speak it. And that's who approves whatever we say or do here on this show. So long as I've got God's approval, whether man is satisfied or not, is something that I can't take into consideration.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And don't worry, Pastor Lorenzo, you always got me to be your Peter. Don't worry about it.
Yes, sir. Definitely.
Village, one thing that's coming to my heart.
I was like, what you say about Pastor Lorenzo? What?
Yes, sir.
I don't have this knife for nothing. I'll cut your ear off.
I love it. And Village, to that, I want to pick up and say, I do not want us to end up like the spoiled children who have it all, and then when it's all stripped away, we're sitting there pouting because we didn't utilize all of the benefits and privilege that we have. So please vote, be heard.
Yeah, definitely. All right, everybody. Again, this is Pastor Lorenzo Evans with the Takes a Village podcast, my lovely co-host and daughter, Ariana Turner, and our guest and my friend, Bishop Devin Miller. We want people to be informed, and we can only do that if we speak. And also, you can Clear Faith Christian Ministries. It's his ministry. He's on YouTube, Facebook.
Nope, I'm not on Facebook.
Not Facebook. Well, he's
Facebook alone, but YouTube, and you can catch me on TikTok, which is a candid conversation with Pastor D.
Yeah, so definitely look him up because, like I said, we even within the confounds of this show, he's still very calm in the way he's answering things. So, and not saying that's a bad thing when you speak differently, but you have the wisdom to, to speak according to the form that you were, being presented with. So there's wisdom. So
because I get real wild on my show now. Ooh, no. Tuesday nights at 9 p.m. we do a Bible study and we study the Bible. I really do. And but on Fridays at about 11 o'clock is when we do Q&A with Pastor D, and that's when we get down with it.
Yes.
Any question is not out of bounds. Just be ready for the answer.
Exactly.
All right,
everybody. Again, hope y'all have a good day. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. And we'll see y'all again in a couple of weeks, and we'll have more interesting topics and titles and things to talk about. Again, this is It Takes a Village podcast, and we're bringing back the village concept. We want to help our village one person at a time. Until we see y'all next time, have a good day.
All right. Good night.